Hi, folks. Welcome to Crisco's Corner. Unfiltered commentary. And that's your truth, the real truth. Please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thank you for your support. Welcome back from Fox News. Biden pins partial blame on Trump during first address to nation since Afghanistan withdrawal. The phrase blaming Trump trended on Twitter during Biden's speech. Now, everybody's complaining about the fact their hands were tied with a Trump plan. But you're going to see at the very end of the article, Trump said exactly what would happen, and everybody knows. In a lot of ways, Trump is predictable, but that's a good thing, too, if you're an enemy. If you're an enemy in the United States, you know exactly what he's going to do. And he's going to do exactly what he says, whether it's popular or not. And let's read the article here. I mean, he can't shift the blame to Trump. I'm sorry. You know, all of you Trump derangement syndrome people will never get it. I know. But the 10, 15, maybe even 20% of the normal Democrats that are still left understand that this is nonsense. They don't like Trump either, but the truth is the truth. Let's read on. President Joe Biden addressed the nation Tuesday afternoon as first since American troops fully withdrew from Afghanistan and pinned partial blame on former President Donald Trump for some of the chaos that unfolded during the withdrawal. The previous administration's agreement that we stuck to a May 1st deadline that they had signed on to leave by, the Taliban wouldn't attack any American forces, the president said during his speech, shifting blame to negotiations Trump had with the Taliban before he took office. If we had stayed, all bets were off. We had left with a simple decision. Either follow through on the commitment made to the last administration to leave Afghanistan or say we weren't leaving and commit other tens of thousands more troops back in the war. That was a choice. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Yeah, you could have brought more troops in. You could have left the other air base open. You could have brought more troops in and say, listen, here's the deal. We're withdrawing people. We're taking civilians first. Americans, of course, take top priority because we are the U.S. military, not the UN. And our Afghan allies that want to leave. Would there have been a stampede and chaos? Of course. Not nearly as bad as what happened. It's kind of like a divorce. It's always going to be tough. It's always going to be difficult. But you can make it 50 times worse by what you do or don't do. And this is exactly what happened. It made it a lot worse. Now, some people say whether it was incompetency or was on purpose. Who knows? The real choice between leaving or escalating. No, there was no choice. You were going to leave, period. So let's hear what our president, and I say that with sadness, has to say.
The Taliban was in its strongest military position since 2001.
Now that's the funny part. If the Taliban was in the strongest position since 2001 because of Trump, then why did he make the statement the capital, Kabul, would never fall and the Taliban would never overrun the country once we started leaving? You can't have it both ways. You can't say that the chances of them taking over everything are almost zero. And at the same time, say when they're in their strongest position in 20 years. Both can't be true at the same time.
Controlling or contesting nearly half of the country. The previous administration's agreement said that if we stuck to the May 1st deadline that they had signed on to leave by, the Taliban wouldn't attack any American forces. But if we stayed, all bets were off. So we were left with a simple decision. Either follow through on the commitment made by the last administration and leave Afghanistan, or say we weren't leaving and commit another tens of thousands more troops going back to war.
That's a lie. That's a lie, plain and simple. Let's just watch the rest of it short.
That was the choice, the real choice, between leaving or escalating.
Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. You didn't want to leave. And you were mad because an agreement was done by a person in an administration you hate their guts. You think they're evil and you think they're monsters. And they weren't. Trump, good, bad, or indifferent, your opinion on him is one of the biggest deal makers in the world. You don't think for a minute that Trump just made this decision just by himself? No, he got a lot of advice from military who he respected. Where were all the Joint Chiefs? They all signed on it. The fact of the matter was, Donald Trump, the first 3 or 4 weeks he was president back in 2017, said, we're getting the hell out of Afghanistan. And that pissed off all the intelligence agencies. The NSA, the CIA, everybody. It pissed off the Pentagon, but even more importantly, it pissed off what Eisenhower said was the military-industrial complex. Those young people out there, go to YouTube and punch in Dwight Eisenhower, military-industrial complex. His farewell speech as being president for 8 years and also commander of all Allied forces in the European theater in World War II. The guy knew what the hell he was talking about. And he warned us in 1961. I was almost 5 years old. Of course, I don't remember it, but I remember I've watched the speech many times. And he warned about this. And nobody listened, of course. Don't let anybody kid you any. This war was about money, pure and simple. And now we have the progressives and the leftists going along with the huge corporations that make money. It's baffling to me. Let's read on. They're in the strongest position since 2001 by its concern the Taliban. The president also added it was not an arbitrary deadline to withdraw troops. I take responsibility for the decision. This is another amazing statement of his.
I take responsibility for the decision. Now some say we should have started mass evacuation sooner. And couldn't this have been done in a more orderly manner? I respectfully disagree.
Seriously? Seriously? Could have been any worse? I mean, could have been any worse? I mean, a lot of the videos they're not showing of them storming the gates, there was one freaking airport. One. They closed the other one. They had a very, very strong military perimeter around the other airport. There was no way. They could have brought out tens of thousands out of that airport and it gave some relief to the other airport in Kabul. But they didn't. They didn't. You respectfully disagree? How can you disagree? Your decisions, and you're the president, caused total chaos. One airport, you closed the other one and left billions of dollars worth of equipment. I did an episode yesterday on some of the things that were left behind. It's staggering. Let's listen on.
Imagine if we'd begun evacuations in June or July, bringing in thousands of American troops and evacuating more than 120,000 people in the middle of a civil war. There still would have been a rush to the airport, a breakdown in confidence and control of the government.
A rush to the airport. You're the guy that closed the other airport. You're the guy that when the Iraqi forces at the air base you closed got up in that morning and looked around, the Americans were gone. You didn't even give notification to the Afghan army, the ones that were fighting the Taliban. You never said a word. Were you afraid it would leak out? That airport should have been open till the very last minute. And the airport in Kabul, they take the overflow. That's just common sense. I'm not even a soldier and I know that.
and it still would have been very difficult and dangerous mission. The bottom line is there is no evacuation from the end of a war that you can run without the kinds of complexities, challenges, and threats we faced. None.
The fact of the matter is, you screwed it up. Yes, it was difficult. Yes, it was going to leave a vacuum. Yes, there was going to be some Afghans left behind. That's inevitable with the numbers we were talking about. But yet you made it the worst case scenario because of incompetency, or was it dumb like a fox on purpose? I can't tell yet. It's a speech unfolded, the phrase blaming Trump trending on Twitter. Of course. Now he's blaming Trump. Biden says the Taliban was in the strongest position when he came into office in January, controlling more than half the country. And I like Tammy Bruce a lot. She's cool. And she's right. Strongest position he ever came to an office in January, controlling more than half the country. Then how is that he insisted just a few weeks ago that the Taliban were not going to overtake the country? It can't be both ways. She's right. The Taliban onslaught started coming once Joe Biden was in the White House. Trump's former acting director of national intelligence, Richard Grenell, tweeted, the Taliban knew they couldn't make the move when Trump was in office. That's true. Ronnie Jackson, who served as Trump's White House doctor, tweeted during his speech, how many times did he blame Trump? Mr. Biden, you are the commander-in-chief. Stop blaming for your failures. You're a failed president, and you need to resign. Biden was repeatedly cited his predecessor in multiple statements and speeches, and Trump issued a flurry of statements the last couple of days, going as far as arguing the time for the president to resign in disgrace. Now, Trump's always hyperbolic, always has been. Let's read on. If he thought the deal was bad, he could have renegotiated. True. He had plenty of opportunity to do that if he so desired, Miller, top Pentagon counterterrorism official at the time the Doha deal was signed, told the Associated Press. Renegotiating, though, would have been difficult. Biden would have little leverage. He, like Trump, wanted U.S. troops out of Afghanistan, and that was Trump's biggest mistake when he first came in office in early 2017, saying he wanted to withdraw from Afghanistan. It's sad to say that a president of the United States should have kept his mouth shut and kept his opinions to himself concerning that. And as time goes on, then do it. But he's transparent, whether you like him or not. U.S. officials made clear at the time that the agreement was condition-based, and the failure of the intra-Afghan peace talks to reach a negotiated settlement would have nullified the requirement to withdraw. There is no obligation for the United States to withdraw troops if the Afghan parties were unable to reach agreement or if the Taliban show bad faith during negotiations. Yeah. Let's look at the reality of it. We would not have stood for any soldiers, this is Trump, or any Americans being killed or shot at or hurt in any way. That was in there. And for 18 months, he's talking to the interviewer, not one American was killed, not one. 18 months. And that was because of the agreement. Trump added, it was conditions-based. Now, there are many other parts of the agreement also. But if they violated them, you know that. We went in and bombed the hell out of them, and they never would. They never would have come into Kabul. And that's the truth. They pulled Iraqi air cover 2 weeks prior to the falling of the capital in Afghanistan. And then they deserted the only air base outside. What is there, a couple of million people in Kabul? It's a pretty densely populated area. With an airport right in the middle of it? Duh. You know, you don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to figure where they screwed up. I don't know where this is going. There's going to be 40-odd% of the American people that are going to believe it was all Trump's fault no matter what. That leaves the other 60. There's 40% that believe it was Biden's fault no matter what, which in this case it was. But Trump can do no wrong. The other 20% in the middle are the ones Those hearts and minds need to be changed with facts and the truth. The midterms are another year and change away. That's a long time. We've only had 6 odd months with this president. We have another year to go. God knows what can happen, good or bad. And I don't see any good coming out of this. There's almost 200 Americans stuck in Afghanistan. And hundreds, if not thousands, of Afghans that helped us during the 20 years we were there. They are now stuck. How many people are going to die? How much carnage? How many executions? Who the hell knows? And who is going to fill in the vacuum for the United States, i.e. China or Russia or God knows who else, Iran? It's a mess. And it would have been a mess no matter what happened. But like I said, you can make it 10 times worse if you wanted to. And apparently, Biden wanted to. Until the next time, goodbye and good luck.